All right, folks, welcome to the runningrestaurants.com podcast, where we bring you the tips, tools, and techniques you need to make your restaurant more profitable and successful. I'm your host, Jaime Oikle. Today, we'll be digging into one of the biggest ongoing challenges in the restaurant business, and that, of course, is managing your staff, managing your team. My guest is Rushi Patel, co-founder of Homebase, which is a platform built around scheduling and time tracking, payroll, HR, all that fun stuff, as well as team management. So, Rushi, I want to talk about your workplace report that you guys have out now and some of the findings there, but I also want to talk in general about technology and what restaurant operators are seeing and what are the challenges out there. But first, folks, this is a welcome back. So welcome back to the show. Our first episode, I just went back and saw it. It sits on the archive at episode number 224. Great stuff there on team management. So folks, check that out if you haven't. If folks didn't see us that first time around, give us some background, what you guys are doing, who you are, what you got.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. I like how you did in the intro, you described it as the fun stuff, because we certainly do think it's the fun stuff when you're having to manage, the schedule, the hiring, the onboarding, the time tracking, the messaging, the payroll. Like that's what Homebase exists for. Most operators would not call it the fun stuff, right? They call it the frustrating stuff that they have to do, the tax they have to pay in order to run their teams. But Homebase is purpose built to help handle that for them. We think about our job making work easier for both the hourly employer and the employees at the team. So that's Homebase. We're an all-in-one AI-driven platform to help those operators and those employees focus on the things that they want to do, which is the work and the customers.
Good. Well, we're definitely going to talk on that AI stuff today because it is changing the landscape since the last time we spoke for sure. So I know we will get into that at some point. One of the cruxes for getting together is you guys recently or somewhat recently put out a local workplace pulse report. You can tell me how you gather that data, how, what comes out of it. What were some of the big call outs? Where do you want to start?
Yeah, absolutely. So we gather the data by talking to our customers, and our customers consist of both those employers and the employees. We're privileged today to serve over 150,000 local businesses, north of 3.5 million hourly employees. And so we'll run surveys against that. And it's nice because we can run touch point surveys throughout periods of time. So we can see where trends are changing with enough sample size. So we did this earlier this year, and we had a chance to better understand what is going on. How are the operators feeling? How are the employees feeling? Like what's salient in terms of a shifting view? So I can share a little bit about that if that's a helpful place to start.
Yeah, start there. Absolutely.
Great. All right. So at the end of the day, a lot of operators think about pay being the most important factor around attracting employees. And there's certainly an important piece around having pay meet the needs of the hourly employee. What's interesting is for employees, pay was a very large factor in terms of meeting their needs of where they're going to work. But what we did is we normalized it and said, okay, so yes, pay is important because you have base needs in your life. But if all things are equal, where would you choose to work? Would you choose to work at a small business, a local business, or a larger corporation? And it was a 5-to-1 odds favorite that they would choose a local business.
Really?
Yeah, and that's an interesting advantage point that the local operator needs to keep in mind, because sometimes the operator thinks like, oh, how am I going to compete with the big guys? They certainly have a bigger budget. But this is around understanding the psychology of, well, why is an employee saying, I'd rather work with you 5 times more likely than the corporation? And it comes down to some simple things. At a larger corporation, you're a number, you get cycled through, you're there to do a job, and that's kind of where it ends. You clock in, clock out, do the job, that's where it ends. At a local business, you're a trusted employee. You're a part of that community of the operators community, and you're serving a community, one that you might have personal ties to as well. And that feeling drives home a certain appreciation for the job, desire for the job, and longevity for the job, which is critically important. Because employees, one of the other challenges we know about running restaurants is the turnover that you get in these restaurants. And employees are much more likely to want to stay at their local business or any place of work if they feel like they've got community and good management. pay is much lower on that list once you're in the job. And so I think it's really important because what our data shows is that it's a great place to work. And that was the nature of us doing the survey. It's made up of more than one ingredient. Oftentimes people think that ingredient is just, well, just pay them more, pay them 50 cents more an hour, 75 cents more an hour, and it makes it a great place to work. And the data shows that's actually not the case. Once base pay needs are met, it is not about the pay. It's about community, culture, and management.
I was going to ask you at one point here, and what's going to be probably later, but since you're right there, are you getting feedback? And it sounds like you are, that people, what's for lack of a better word, management is the challenge. Sometimes people want to work at a place because of the people, right? So if you're having trouble finding people, if you're having trouble retaining people, maybe it's not the marketplace, maybe it's you. I guess what I'm getting at is are you seeing success stories with people that are retaining and finding people because of the culture, versus, some of the other things? Do you see anything like that?
Yeah, Jamie, whether it's at a large corporation or the local operator, whether it's in the restaurant space, retail, or in an office setting, there's like this concept that everyone talks about. People don't quit jobs, they quit managers, right? That's like a familiar saying, because at the end of the day, that relationship that you have with that manager, right? Whether it's again at a large company or a small company, sort of defines a lot of your work experience. It's that manager that's making decisions as to your schedule, as to the flexibility to some time off requests, as to the skills that you're going to be developing and how they're going to help you develop it. And if managers aren't able to spend their time on those things, on working with the individual employee, and instead are dealing with the fun, as we described it earlier, of running their business, those aspects of the fun of running their business are things that take them away from their employees. And I think you're spot on that the challenge on retention comes straight down to that manager and employee relationship. And how do you strengthen that? How do you provide more time for that and take away those other distractions?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I think you're right on there. I'm looking at some of the other data that I want to get to because I'm really curious about this. And you mentioned AI in your lead in, so I'm sure you guys are doing a lot in that regard, but you have some interesting stuff that talks about the usage of AI and the interest in AI tools in restaurants and how it's kind of a lot lower in some respects than in other industries and other categories. And I can see how that could be the case for sure. Talk about it. Like, what are you seeing? What are you guys doing?
Yeah, so it's actually a tale of two stories. And the reason I share that is like, this is the thing that surprised me the most when I got the data back. If I just think about a picture like running a restaurant, when you run a restaurant, you've got the hospitality side of the business, the front of house, where like you want to have things be calm, collected, focused. It's the experience that's happening on that side of the house. So that side of the swinging door between the kitchen and the front of the house looks very different than what's happening in what might be a much more chaotic environment in the back of the house. And there's a little bit of that happening even in terms of how AI is being used. And so I share that because, one, AI usage, when we surveyed our customers, it has gone up year on year. Makes sense because it's becoming a little bit more easy to access that as a operator. It's sort of getting built into the point of sale systems. It's getting built into your accounting software. It's sort of just becoming embedded in terms of the platforms you already use are embedding this to make it easier to use the platform. That makes a lot of sense. And so you'd say, okay, that's like the calm environment of like trying to create tooling to make your life easier. Well, the other side of that door is a little bit more chaos. When we surveyed our employees, what we found out was only 4% of our food and beverage hourly workers are engaged with AI, using AI. It's the lowest rate that we found within any of the industries that we surveyed. And so it's an interesting dichotomy of like, man, the operators are using it. And then you may ask, well, what are the operators using it for? It could be to run marketing promotions. It could be to run, the decisions on inventory of what they need to buy, et cetera. But when it comes to the employees are not experiencing what could be some of the benefits that come from those same AI tooling. It's not showing up in their handheld ordering devices just yet, but I have no doubt it will. And the focus of what I've seen in a lot of the technology plays right now is these point of sale companies, these other vendors are trying to figure out, how do I make it easier for that employee to do their job, for the employee to get that upsell to a certain wine or to a certain dessert, something that drives a little bit more revenue for the business and potentially tip volume back over to the employee.
Some folks will, challenge the topic of, hey, why are you using it? How does it really improve my day-to-day operations?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the hype versus the reality? I know you guys must be utilizing it in lots of aspects of yourself. So how do you answer that question? Hey, man, there's a lot of hype, but like, what's actually working?
Yeah, so there's hype, and it'll markets have an incredible way of like having the cream rise to the top, right? It's just like a lot of things get tried out on that pot, and you figure out what's working, what's not working. But the hype right now is more so that a lot of the restaurant work, a lot of the use of AI is happening on things that are more customer facing. It's you've seen some of these. I'm sure you may have even experienced it yourself when you go through certain drive-throughs, and you'll see like, okay, it's got like an AI voice that's trying to take the order.
Right.
Right. I don't know if you experienced that, but it's like, okay, it's getting better. It wasn't so good a little while back, but it's getting better. So there's improvements being made. But a lot of that AI investment that's being made is on that customer application side. It's on the marketing to those customers, promotions, loyalty offers, those types of things to bring the customer back in to sort of simplify some of those decisions. And you say, okay, that's good. Like, it's good to sort of have those things available for the managers, so one less task for them, but it also starts to eke away at the advantage of being what's special, being that local fabric in your community. If you start to have AI serve some of those functions, if AI is the voice on the other end of the screen taking the order, it takes away a bit of that connection that sometimes folks feel with their local place of business. And so I'd say a little bit of the hype here is there's a lot being focused on the customer side, and not as much yet making its way through to the manager side, to the manager and employee relationship side. It's a lot of business to customer AI interactions. I even see it in the popular apps that I use to sometimes do my food delivery to home. It's like you'll get some suggestions from these apps that tell you, hey, why don't you try this or that? Right. And it's using my preferences, and it knows a lot about me. And so it's giving me pretty good suggestions there. And again, it makes a lot of sense to, again, drive business volume, which is helpful. Yeah. And I'm confident that a lot of that will turn into success for these businesses. But at the same point, we're still in the early days of what does the AI tooling do to change the relationship between the manager and the employee.
For sure. And very early days, and it's like, wait a week, something else is going to be different. First of all,
that's good. Love that.
But so one of the fears, not more so in other industries, is people are going to be mass laid off because of technology, and I don't see it as much in our space, in the restaurant space, because we need to physically touch people. Yeah, there could shave a little bit of time if you're getting so efficient with some of the tools and so forth. And so I don't think that's as much of a concern. But where do you see AI replacing or saving time? Like, I certainly see it in the manager's duties, stuff like what you do, the scheduling, the payroll. The tech is really just shaving time from people's schedules so they can use it on more front-facing stuff. Is that one of the biggest advantages right now?
Yeah, that's right. Even before AI, we've been seeing these images about these robotic burger flipping bots, right? Like, we've been seeing that. That was before AI. Around this concept of like that job is going away. And you're right. Certainly some aspects of certain jobs may change because of automation or because of new safety techniques that allow something to actually be done more safely and at less risk for the employee. So those are actually good things in some ways. But I do think service-oriented businesses have a certain resilience when it comes to how AI impacts them, because it's not coming for the job. It's there to make the job better. And so let's talk about what I mean by that. AI works really well when it comes to like lots of data, right? And so we have data and patterns to recognize and decision points that you can build off of. It makes it easier to predict the next thing. And so take Homebase, right? Over 10 years of doing this, billions upon billions of data points on decisions that are made on which shift trades people accept, how they build schedules, which time card edits are ones that are required to make a timesheet compliant. Like we have all these data points, and AI allows us to better surface that, help make a decision, inform the manager about what we're doing, and allow them to have the final say so. Whether it's in a onboarding flow around alerting them that a certain document was missed, whether it's in scheduling to notify them that based off of predicted local events happening this weekend, they may be understaffed, or pattern recognition of Sundays when it's raining tends to do these things. Therefore, you should think about staff edits right now to build a more resilient and profitable day. Those are things that the manager was typically responsible for, but software is keenly positioned to help run. So get rid of the challenges of payroll management, get rid of the challenges of HR compliance, the headache of being a master at moving around the Tetris pieces that are the schedule for the week. Let the software handle 95% of that for you. Use your critical judgment for the final few pieces. What does that free up? That frees up the manager to now think about their world in a very different way. Like, Jamie, I guess what I posit here is the manager of the future, and the future's here now. The manager that succeeds in 26 and in 2027 isn't necessarily the manager that is the best at the fun stuff, right? They're not the best at hiring, onboarding, scheduling, time tracking, messaging, payroll, because a lot of those things can be handled through a software layer. They're the best at providing psychological safety, at empathy around building the human connection. And those things will pay dividends far more than any other investment. And they say that because you've got an industry that is plagued with high turnover. You've got an industry where the data shows that if you don't build that community feeling very quickly with your employees, if you don't invest in that first 30 days, that next 90 days around making an employee feel like they're part of the ecosystem, they are likely to walk out. Jamie, I was thinking about, you had a discussion a while back around this concept of renting a customer. I think you're referring to the DoorDashes, the Uber Eats, the platforms where you've got this dynamic at play around, hey, you're leveraging technology tools to rent a customer. I was trying to think through, like, is there a similarity in what's happening on the employee side? Like, are you renting labor when you think about your employee merely as a cog and an equation in a piece, and not investing in bringing that employee in? Because if you run a 100-person larger operation, right? So a larger full service operation, it's 100 people deep. If you run the risk of that 70% attrition rate, that's 70 new people that you're having to, it's a constant hamster. Now you're training them, finding them. They're not able to grasp the key things that makes the unit successful. The manager is like pulling their hair out, dealing with those challenges, as opposed to the challenges of serving the customer and making sure that the staff is well maintained. So I think let the AI tooling help bring some of those solutions that free up the manager's time to do the things that AI is just not built for yet. It's not built. As much as I appreciate Claude telling me a lot of my ideas are good, it's not built for that empathy in the same way. It's certainly not built for human connection in that same way.
That's funny.
And it's not the thing that the employees value. The employees value that relationship with the manager. They stay because of the manager. They leave because of the manager. So let's make the manager incredible.
Yeah, listen, very good stuff right there. That batch was really good. And I wrote down some keywords. I love that visualization of Tetris when doing the schedule. That is absolutely true. This idea of the first 30 days, like don't skip over that. Like that bringing the person on and talk about the first day, the first 7 days, like that is really going to set the tone for the future at your restaurant. Make sure you have that process dialed in. People will either get emotionally engaged with you or be like, oh, I guess they really don't really care that I'm here. And so I'm probably going to start looking for something right away. So I'm just talking to restaurants here. Like, don't skip that part, man. Like use those first 30 days to really get them into your culture. Super important. I want to kind of pivot a little bit and see if you could have any thoughts here about, myths about, restaurant workers and our employees and what operators don't understand about young employees. Do you get any data like that? Do you see any kind of compelling, myths and misunderstandings?
Yeah, it's, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this, but it's effectively, sometimes operators will turn it into something very transactional and think about it as like, well, the only thing they care about is pay. Mm-hmm. And that is, it's a partial myth in that certainly you can't pay so little that it doesn't make sense for them to spend the energy and time to get to work. The gas money, the subway money, the bus money to get to work. But I think that's one of the biggest myths here is that the employer thinks it's all about the money when the employee thinks that it's all about the relationship. So I think that's the myth to correct here if you're an operator. And to your point, Jamie, that gets corrected not only in the interviewing stages, but it gets corrected on day one and gets hardened on day 7 and day 30 on like how you treat them. If you treat them as a transactional tool and as opposed to a relational one, there'll be no surprise that you're going to have turnover issues. There'll be no surprise that the service level of your operation starts to suffer. There's going to be no surprise when you start to see 1 and 2 star reviews pop up on various sites. And that's because you invested in the transaction as opposed to the relationship. And so that's maybe the myth I debug here is that though pay is important, it is not the only thing that matters. And the thing that matters is actually well within the control. In fact, more in the control of local operators than larger operators.
It is. So thank you for thinking about that. And I posted something yesterday or the other day on social. This course is going to run when it runs, but it was more, just made me think about it. It's like the lifetime value of a customer is a lot different than that one $25 meal, right? It can be worth $25,000 to you, but you just made me think about, the lifetime value of your employee being with you is the same idea because of the cost of turnover and whatnot. So if you think about that investment in a person, what if they last 1 month versus 10 years? Like that is a much different transactional value for you as the operator having a long-term person. It's so much more valuable. I'm not telling you anything you don't know there. Hey, one thing that I wanted to do is talk about metrics. I meant to bring this up earlier, but now's a good time. Like, what numbers should operators be looking at in your space? Is it a labor number, utilization number, a payroll number? What are some key numbers that you guys have operators review?
So there's no surprise here on some of them, right? It's labor as a percentage of sales. There's a lot of costs in the operator's business that are fixed or like predictable, right? Where it's predictable is your rent cost, your lease cost. What's predictable is your salary expenses. Those are like fixed commitments you're making. And so it turns out like, well, what's the next factor that is most important to running a business where you can actually have profit versus a loss on a given basis? And that is your labor as a percentage of sales metric. And so there's rough rules of thumb here where it's like 30% is a good rough rule of thumb. But again, it certainly matters in terms of where you're located. If you're in a high cost city with rents that are substantial, if you don't have pricing power, and I say pricing power in the sense of if you're a franchisee of a brand, even if you're a smaller brand or a smaller operator, you may not get pricing power. You don't get to necessarily set the price because it's got to be the same price across that region. But I'd say 30% is a standard rule of thumb here, but just monitor that metric, stay on top of it, understand what's happening. There's another one that we'd also suggest, and it makes sense when you think about it, and that is publish your schedules at least 2 weeks in advance.
Right.
At least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because those components that make an employee enjoy where they work deal with having some predictability and understanding of what work is going to be, who they're going to be working with, what days they're working, the ability to request shift trades if they need something because they've got advance notice of what's happening when they're expected to work. And so we'd really encourage operators to schedule at least 2+ weeks in advance.
I remember this was back when I was in retail and so forth, and so schedules come out. Hey, a schedule comes out on Thursday for next week. Like that's terrible. Like you don't know what's coming. It's the worst, and no one likes that. And people do have, we have kids, and they have this event and that event, and we have travel, and I'm like every single other person, so you want to plan ahead. So that's a big call out. Are you finding restaurants doing better job with that?
They are, because we're providing visibility, right, to help them make it easier to do. You create templates, you make it easy to repeat. You can build out months worth of schedules pretty quickly so that you can then start to see who's requesting shift trades 2 months in advance. You can start to see what your expected volumes are going to be of staff availability. Look, there's some full service restaurants that we work with that, in some ways, they've got a different strategy. They hire someone just for like, hey, you're hired for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. That is it. And when you commit to this job, you're committing to Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And that strategy can work for certain operations. But for a lot of operations, particularly ones that are local, a bit smaller, think, quick serve, countertop service restaurants and cafes, that like you've got a much smaller team. You've got to have the flexibility to move team members around, but you also have to have the ability to respect the team members' availability. And so leveraging tools to help you do that, taking advantage of the functionality that might exist within your point of sale systems, within tools like Homebase. It's designed so that it makes it super simple to make sure you get the schedules out, get the availability from your employees, get PTO requests early, create policies, not for the sake of having rigidity, but for the sake of having clarity. Right? People think like, oh, like I want to be a fun place to work. I want to be flexible, but people appreciate understanding, well, what are the rules by which we're operating this relationship? If there's a rule that says all PTO requests have to be in within more than 1 week's notice, great. Now there's clarity and both sides know how to operate.
Yeah. I can only imagine that when you guys and other tech folks invented or brought to market that easily trade a shift option, like that was probably workers' like most exciting day. Like, what do you mean I can just hit a button and trade a shift? Like that must be a well-used feature, I would imagine.
It is a well-used feature. I think that there's the opposite end of it, which is they got to make sure that they've got good enough relationships with other employees that want to accept their shift, because it's symbiotic. It's like if I did it for you that one time, I'm going to expect that at some point when I have a shift trade that I need, that you'll be there for me too. So it's a little bit of it's a thing. I call it the restaurant social contract, I suppose.
That's funny.
Right?
That's funny. All right. Question as we close. I think last time I probably asked you for a book recommendation. I don't remember. I'll have to go back to what it was, but anything you're reading currently that you would share with folks, or what do you think?
Yeah. So you did ask last time, and I'd say I'm actually going back through the same book. It was Unreasonable Hospitality is what I shared last time by Will.
Oh, you did? Okay. Well, you should go
I
back
can't tell. I see you've got some yellow books in your background. I don't know if one of those is that. Yeah. Got a yellow bind.
It's right here. Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara. And you should absolutely go back through it. It is that type of book. Like, don't just read it once and put it away. Everybody brings this darn book up, and so I finally bought it. Maybe it was you that kicked me in the tail to go get it.
Look, there is one other one that I recently read. So it's in the same vein, but it helps you better understand. This is more from the operator perspective. It's a book called Shopkeeping. Not a rest. It's a perspective from a bookseller named Peter Miller. So I don't know if you've come across that book or not, but it's called Shopkeeping. It's I think it's like stories, advice, and observations of of being a local place of business. And in the same way that Will's book was beyond just restaurants, it was just like his forte was restaurants, and his experience was how do you create that feeling of unreasonable hospitality in a restaurant. Shopkeeping talks about the power of the local business in the community and what it means to not just survive but thrive in that community. So I'd probably suggest that one as an alternative or in addition to unreasonable hospitality.
Good. I like it. And I'll give my reading plug today, like I do sometimes when we talk about this. A lot of people will say, oh man, I don't have time to pick up and read a whole book. Fine, don't read a whole book. Like read a chapter, spend 5 minutes reading something that is different from your regular life. I promise that's good. Like just do it for 5 minutes. Everybody can commit to that. I don't want to hear you say you can't read for 5 minutes. Like just do it.
Yeah. And if nothing else, Jamie, they're listening to us on a podcast, right? Maybe they're watching us as well, depending on which version they're getting from stream, audio stream or video only. You gotta love how many of these books are now on the day of release also available in an Audible format or an audio format on Spotify's premium accounts. Like it's very easy and important to get that perspective.
Yeah.
It gives you, in the same way that traveling did for you and your wife to Europe, picking up a book gives you a perspective of another way to look at the challenges or the situation that you're facing.
100%. That's what I find. Like I do try to read a little bit every day. And sometimes it's literally 10, 15 minutes because that's all the day fits in. But I swear every single time I go, oh, and I write a little note. It was something, might turn into an article, might turn into a marketing idea, might turn into something for life. But you're like, you just pick stuff up from different sources. So I love your tip about audio, and my wife is completely in that camp. She loves it. All right. Closing thoughts, anything we didn't hit on that you want to hit on, and then send them to your websites, reports, anything else?
Yeah. So closing thought, if you're an operator, thank you for being an operator. Thank you for having the courage to invest your time, your money, and doing something that you feel is special for your community. And just realize there are tools out there that are now designed for you. 10, 15 years back, a lot of the tools are designed for enterprise operators trying to make, and then they tried to tweak the thing they did to say, oh, this is really built for you too. But that wasn't the case, right? It was like those things were built for the much larger operators at that time. But now you've got purpose-built tools. You've got things that are here to help you. So I'd encourage you not just to explore reading, but also to explore the tools that might be available. The challenges that you're facing right now likely have something available. And if those challenges are on those fun topics that Jamie and I covered earlier, when it comes from the running a team within your restaurant, solutions like Homebase can be helpful for you there.
Yeah. Send them to the website. Where should they go? How do they find you?
Sure. And we're at joinhomebase.com. And you can quickly find out about all of the different things we do. And then if you're ever interested in just our data and what's happening in industry trends, that's just joinhomebase.com/data. We publish a monthly report called the Main Street Health Report, and it provides insights as to what's happening by industry type, by region, wage rates, you name it. We want to share that information to help you run a better business yourself.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, the data is out there to share it. That's powerful stuff. Thank you for doing that for the community. And yeah, your message to folks is absolutely spot on. I mean, the mindset to even take on the idea of running a restaurant is unfathomable at times, all the moving pieces. So folks that do it, I mean, exactly, congrats and keep up the hard work. We know how difficult it is. Awesome stuff today. This was great. Rushi Patel of Homebase. You can find them on the web at joinhomebase.com for more great restaurant marketing, service, people, tech, and more. Stay tuned to us here at runningrestaurants.com. If you could do me a super easy, quick favor in the meantime, just hit that like button or subscribe or review wherever you're listening to it. Just take a second and do that. That would be so great, and I would appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Rushi.
Thank you.